Welcome back once again to You Should Get a License, your number one source for information, education, and inspiration on the most underrated career opportunity in business. Today, we're talking about careers in insurance and financial services. My name is Rod Powell. I'm your host, and we have a very, very special guest. We got a veteran in the business, one who has been there, who has done that, and done it in a multitude of ways. Clark Cesar, 25 years plus in the business, registered financial representative. He's actually a branch office manager for a firm, a major brokerage firm, works on investment accounts for employers. I'm talking about group benefit plans. Yo, we don't really have people that have conversations about group benefit plans here on this platform, and I'm excited to have this conversation. So I want to welcome one of the big dogs in the yard, Mr. Clark Cesar. Welcome. How you doing, sir?
Hey, man, I'm well. Thank you for having me. I've been looking forward to the conversation all day. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Now he's in Atlanta currently. He is a Boston native, and he's a fan of all the Boston sports. We're not going to hold that against him on this platform. But, man, so, Clark, in all seriousness, look, I really appreciate you being here. You've had a career in a variety of different markets, you know, on the financial advisory side, as well as on the benefit side and crafting those. For those who are listening, can you just share a little bit about what you do currently and where you work inside of this industry right now?
Fantastic. Great question. As you kind of put it, man, my journey kind of involved from financial services, life insurance, being a producer agent, kind of all over. So I kind of got a good sense of the industry, what we're talking about, risk management, financial services. And now currently I'm working for a large healthcare company here in Atlanta that specializes in group health. So I am an account executive in sales for small group health here in Atlanta.
Now, this is phenomenal because many times when people think sales and they think insurance, they think individual, you know, kitchen table. I'm going to talk to you about, you know, hey, your life insurance and your death benefit. And, you know, let me sit down with you at 8 o'clock at night, you know, 2-3 hours. But you're working in a different capacity, more with more corporate environments, and I think you might do some. I don't know if you do government stuff too, but you're working with larger entities. What is that process like and working environment like versus what you've done previously, even on your advisory side, working with individuals and families?
Man, great question. At the end of the day, it's all pretty similar, right? And anytime we're talking about insurance, we're always talking about risk management. So it's no different whether if I'm advising you on risk management for your auto, your home, life insurance. It's the same thing with healthcare. For employers, they want to keep good employees, and the way that they do that is by being able to offer benefits. And one of the best benefits that you can offer to an employee is healthcare.
Yeah, you know, I think what's interesting about that is, you know, when people go to work, right? You know, most people have a job where, you know, they have some benefits on the table. And one of the things I like to share with people is the fact that, hey, look, you know, that job, when you're making your benefit elections, there's a broker that's tied to that. Like there's somebody in the industry that's tied to that. So being on the other side of it is actually a very powerful, you know, place to be. And just a phenomenal career track. I'll tell you, it's not even one that I found out about until later in my career. And I want to talk about kind of your journey and how you got to where you are in that place. But before we do, what I want to do is I want to go back because, you know, you've been in this business, you know, over 2 decades now. And I don't know if when you were, you know, a child, this is what you always dreamed of doing or dreamed of being. But I love to take a step back to, you know, a 9-year-old, 10-year-old Clark Cesar growing up, Boston, Mass. What were you dreaming about doing? What were you dreaming about being when you grew up?
Man, that's a great question. for the back of my mind, I always kind of envisioned myself as being an entrepreneur, somebody working for themselves, but never quite put the two together. But what I did know is I want to be affluent. I want to be wealthy, whatever that meant to a 10, 11-year-old at the time. And man, a couple of movies really kind of did it for me. It's movie Wall Street, and then just the flair. And then back then, it's just the flair of all the things that goes on along with it, the influence, the wealth. I didn't know how all those things got together or kind of worked together, but I like, hey, that's something that kind of really fascinated me, and that's something that I want.
The Gordon Gekko, greed is good. Yeah,
greed is good. Greed is good.
Greed is good. No, definitely an influential movie, and you know, coming from that time frame, you know, I grew up, you know, similar influences. How did you end up finding your way, you know, in this direction? So let's go back to, all right, you're seeing these films, they're influencing, you know, how you're shaping the world and how you want your world to look. And do you say, hey, okay, when I go to you know, I go through high school, I'm going to go for business, like I'm going to go on that track? Like, what was your journey kind of going through school? What was your direction?
Man, it's kind of crazy. Didn't really kind of had a direction one way or the other. And so when I got to college, I was kind of liberal arts major, again, trying to figure it out. So I kind of went from there, went to marketing and management. And I always had this little creative niche. And one, I always kind of want to think outside the box. I was like, well, maybe that might be it. How do I market things a little differently that we're not seeing? And then after graduation, I was fortunate to go to work for a company, Keystone, which is a large financial firm in Boston at the time. There was a manager who looks like me, and she took the interest and hired me, and that got my career started.
This is right out of college.
This is right out of college.
So did the manager come to the school? Were you putting out applications? How'd that come about?
Hey man, back then I'm gonna sound like an old guy. It was basically going on. You have your little resume in hand, so you kind of go up and kind of doing on. And by chance, met her in the elevator. Said, "Hey, where you going?" Go to human resource office. Hey, you have a resume? Let me take a look at it. And as luck would have it, that's how it happened. Went to work 2 weeks later for that firm, and I was on a service desk as brokers call in and finding out about products. I was answering calls and features about the different products and services that we offer.
Yeah, I think that's wild, because we find it's just always interesting to hear how we find our way to this business. Like, it's always like a chance meeting. Like we're going somewhere, we end up running into someone, they say something to us, and that kind of changes the whole course of our professional and sometimes what if you said, hey, I'm going to human resources, you're in the elevator, you got your resume with you, you start a conversation. What did she say to you? What was the conversation like? What did she say to you that said, I think this is something I want to do? Was it purely, all right, look, I need a job right now? Or like, what did she say, something that like impacted you, that hit you?
Man, I think the biggest thing is you always got to be prepared. Again, you never know what those chance meetings are going to lead to. Again, just being very, very polite, just being presentable, and just basically told my story. I graduated from school. I've been out for 3 weeks. I'm going around passing out my resume, and if there's an opportunity, we'd love an opportunity. And she said, hold on. And next thing you know, she went and got her boss. We're interviewing, and she said, come on back.
Right. She interviewed you right then, that day?
Yeah, interviewed me right then.
Hey, man, we strike while the iron is hot, don't we?
That's right. That's right.
In this industry, we always recruiting. Always recruiting. So you start your career there. You say you're on the service desk. So when you on the service, like, what were you doing? What were you doing for those who aren't familiar? Because I never came through like the financial advisory track. So I've never been in that field, and I know that people listening may not have been as well. So on the service desk, what were your roles and responsibilities?
So basically, a service desk is basically pretty much an entry level position, and what it does is basically all your world is focusing on providing brokers with information as to the product. So Keystone at the time was a large mutual fund company, and then what they did, they sold mutual funds, and brokers would call in. They would have questions about different products we offered, any what contained inside those funds, what were inside those portfolios. So it's our job to kind of know all the ins and outs about those portfolio makeups, and then be able to explain that back to a broker who's calling and want information.
Got you. Okay. Okay. So initially you were starting basically, hey, I'm just you're working on their behalf. Hey, let me just help you get, some information that you're looking for. I don't say it's not like I don't know how you would describe it other than like you would kind of like the kind of like a product gopher, really kind of, right?
Pretty similar.
Go get the info, like here you go, boom. All right, boom, 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 boom. And then they're taking it over to the client. So, okay, so that's where you started, but that's not where you finished. So how'd you start to graduate and progress, through that experience?
So great question. So from there, right? So kind of got my feet wet, really kind of understood what mutual fund products were, what financial products were, and services. I could explain that and be competent enough to explain that to a person. Then from there, about 2 years later, I moved to Atlanta. So boom, I got here, didn't know anyone, by myself. And so.
And what year was that? What year did you move to Atlanta?
This would have been late 90s.
Okay.
And then so boom, I'm here knocking on doors, didn't know anybody. And lo and behold, answered an ad for someone looking for life insurance agents. So there was a company who was in town, Fortis Life. Their biggest thing was selling variable life products, which was at that time the new thing to do.
Yep.
When I got my Series 6 at the time, they had Series 6 and 63 to sell variable life, variable annuities. Got that, and from there, basically their goal was to get you prepared, provide you all the background and knowledge of the products that they were selling, and then you in turn would have to go out and build a book.
It sounds like the experience that you had initially in Boston really kind of teed you up because it allowed you to really become a product expert.
Exactly. And then so now we married the insurance with the financial services, which again I was able to understand the financial side of it, and how mutual funds work, how stock work, how all the other products work. And now I have the life piece coming to it, and now we're marrying the two together.
Especially like, when you moved to Atlanta and you started with the variable products, and the variable products are leveraging some of the same things that you were using, at the brokerage house.
Yep.
So let's break that down for a second. Like, so what's the difference between like just regular stocks and the mutual funds?
So great question. Regular stocks would be like everything we know, all the companies we know, Coca-Cola, Delta. So those are stocks individually, sold individually. And the mutual fund, what is a basket of companies that you put in a basket that have all the same goals, whether you're looking for companies that are in a high growth state or in a particular sector, or it could be looking for companies that are small and have great growth potential. So the mutual fund kind of pair those companies and put it together in a basket for you. Whereas a stock it's just an individual company that you buy into.
Yeah. I just want to just kind of start breaking those down. So you're starting in the investment world. You move to Atlanta and you start to bridge between the investment world and the life insurance world. So how was that? Kind of making that difference. Was it an easy transition? Because obviously a lot of financial advisors, have life licenses as well. Sometimes they do life insurance, sometimes they don't. What was it like for you kind of blending those two?
It's kind of different in that I didn't really know any better because that's all I've always been doing. So the transition was easy. What was kind of interesting is basically, okay, I have knowledge in a particular product in a particular area. how do I share that with somebody else and make them become a client? So that was the kind of the next hurdle for me. Because prior to that, I was a employee. So now basically I'm going from being an employee now to basically a producing agent, meaning that I have to go get the clients, I have to manage my book, I have to create a book of business. So that became the new dynamic. So how do I make that work? So I know about financial services. Now I need to find somebody who needs financial services and marry the two together.
Right. It was because okay, so you're an employee there. Now you're in, hey, independent contractor, eat what you kill, kind of pay performance, type environment. That's hey, I commend you on that because I know that's where I started in the industry. And, I think a lot of times people are deterred, like they're afraid, of those commission type opportunities. What was your mentality? What was your ideology kind of approaching that opportunity?
Man, that's a great question. It's the word commission kind of scare off a lot of people. I think I was fortunate at the time. I was young. I didn't have a family. I didn't need a lot of income to kind of make it. So I was able to take that risk and take the chances. And one thing that I tell everybody and I remind myself is you got to once you bet on yourself, you got to be all in, right? You got to be all in. So all your resources, all your time, you have to be singularly focused and making sure it's going to work.
Yeah, once you bet on yourself, you got to be all in. I like that.
All in.
I like that. So being all in, taking that and saying, "Hey, I'm gonna go full force with this." What were some of the early challenges that you had? Like, you moved into an area where you weren't from. I mean, you didn't. It's not like your network was in Georgia.
Exactly.
Right, so
man, back then in Atlanta, I was fortunate enough to again, you got to remember I'm coming from Boston to Atlanta, so it's kind of night and day. And so what Atlanta does have, it has a huge network of folks that looks like you, that you can kind of talk to and kind of work or knock on doors and they'll answer for the most part. So basically from that, I just kind of took, okay, how do I take my circle of influence and kind of network out? So kind of started out with folks I knew, people I came in contact with, anyone who listened, I would tell my story and just kind of build from there.
Yeah. So how long did it take you to kind of get your groove, in the new area, with that opportunity, starting to speak to those insurance-based products? How long did it take you to feel like, okay, I'm comfortable with this and this is how I'm going to keep growing my career?
A good year and a half, 2 years.
Yeah.
Again, just basically just kind of expanding out. One thing that I did do, I was lucky enough to kind of, again, young and eager, be in places where other folks are that I can tell my story. So what I did find out early on, there was a huge health club in Atlanta where a lot of the affluent folks went to, and I found out 6 o'clock in the morning, 5:30, and all the business owners and doctors, lawyers, and then chief would come in and work out. So that's what I did. So I joined. So 6:30 in the morning, I try to speak to as many people as I could. Again, just try to shake hands, like I was running for mayor.
Yeah, for sure.
Trying to get it out.
So I mean, I know you're an athlete as well. Is that how you got into the marathons and those kind of things? Like, was it working out with the doctors? Hey, I must run this 5K, this 10K. How that process come along? Was that in that mix?
A little bit, sort of both. When you're in a gym setting, everyone kind of have their guards down, right? So either you're playing basketball, you're playing racquetball, you're working out. So it kind of temp down the temperature a little bit, where you can kind of be a lot more social and have those conversations without having to be too formal. And so that a lot of it is kind of extend out like that. If we're working out, we're playing racquetballs again in between sets or playing or hoop. And again, just kind of everyone, just kind of tell everyone what I did if there was ever an opportunity that they needed my services. Here's where I am, is what I do.
Yeah. So it's an opportunity to kind of build a more of an organic style rapport that wasn't an office. It wasn't kind of an uptight or formal environment. It was relaxed. You say, hey, look, this is how we can chat. Great, great strategy, because I think that a lot of new agents and a lot of people who are new in the industry, they're looking. One of the questions is always, well, where do I get leads from? If I start, where do I get leads from? How do I know who to talk to? So I think that's a great approach. Just being in an environment, something that's natural to you anyway, right? And just finding those commonalities.
Exactly.
What were some of the other things that you were doing down in that area? Just starting out in that business, and then I'm gonna start transitioning, because I know you continue to grow and expand from there even.
Yeah, and later on, further on, what I did do is and I'll share this. A lot of the local universities, they also have continuing education, and then they're looking for experts to kind of come in and teach classes on various topics that you have some proficiency in. And so that's what I did too. So I went and enrolled and became a teaching professor for continuing studies at some of the local colleges and universities. And so what that does is it gives you another aspect of being a specialist and someone who kind of have some experience and specialty in that field. So when people came, if I had you in my class for 6 weeks, that gave us an opportunity to kind of get to know each other. And then as we talk different products and services, you get to know me, I get to know you. And then at the end of that 6-week period, most people are taking that class because they want to invest, they want to learn about financial planning, or they had some idea that they want to do something, right? Or they had some money coming. So that gave me a lot of referrals and leads as well.
Right. So teaching.
Yep.
And if someone is not in the college setting, maybe that's even teaching at a community center, or finding opportunities inside of your area, to just doing workshops and things.
Exactly. Seminars, workshop, whether it's at church or school. Again, the more you can kind of get yourself out. Again, be the expert. So whether we're doing dinners, we're doing seminars, again, anywhere you can kind of get a crowd to come listen.
Absolutely. So in that space, so you're in now. You transition. You're in life insurance. You've been able to establish a base of clientele, a book of business. You're teaching. I mean, you really scaled that. Like you work that market out, man. Like that's impressive.
I had to.
Yeah, that's impressive. You're at the gym. So I mean, man, you're all around. So what was the next transition for you? Because eventually, you started to move into more of the group space. So how did that continue to evolve throughout your career journey?
So two things. So prior to getting the group space, there was a national brokerage firm that came, and I got on board, and I was one of the first Black branch office managers here in Atlanta, right in Buckhead. So I had a branch office here in Buckhead right after the Olympics. So that went pretty cool. So nice. The biggest thing with that, and again, so the point I want to make to someone, you got to find your own space and how you do things. Anytime you sell something, and I view marketing as advertising, right? You got to present it in a way that is going to affect someone else, right? And you got to listen. Not everyone present things the same way, so you got to know your audience. So something I may say to you, I may not say to somebody else. So you really got to learn your audience and kind of know what is it that you're presenting, and also be your best client as well. So if you don't sell somebody, and if that's a product you believe in, you got to have it yourself too, so you can have that conviction.
Yeah, very important. Very important. That's right. Hard to sell something that you don't have, yourself. 100%. 100%.
And it's kind of funny. The funny part was once I got on the broker firm, and again, so at this time I might have been in 3 years into Atlanta, and in a brokerage firm, your job is to sell financial products and services. So guys are selling $10,000, $20,000, $40,000, $50,000 worth of stock. And so I'm looking, I don't know anybody I can call on and give me 20, 30,000 dollars worth of stock. So you got to kind of, a lot of time you got to create your processes. So what I did is, again, one, I knew insurance. I knew mutual funds. I need those products. So what I had to do, I incorporated a lot of the life insurance and annuities into my business, where somebody needed to sell. Uh, I was getting the same commission as somebody who sold $70,000 worth of stock in a single policy. A
Yeah,
single policy. I kind of worked it. Uh, on average, I was doing dollar cost averaging. I was having premiums come in. I would, by the time I really got gone, I probably was having about $100,000 a month come in dollar cost averaging, putting people. So I couldn't get those big dollar fund tickets, but I could manage, if I can talk to you, if I can get you to do $500 a month to a mutual fund, if I can get you to do $500 a month to a policy. It's the same dollars, right? And it's paying the same way, and then
that's right.
I'm getting better client as well.
Hey, listen, you and listen, okay. I feel like our industry is like a secret almost, because I remember the first time I bought a life insurance policy, and I was paying $50 a month, okay, term policy. And I just had a question in my mind. This is a long time ago. This is before I even thought about being in this industry in any capacity. And I was like, yo, how is he making money off of me doing this? You know, like I was like, how does he? But he was always happy every time I saw him. You know, he was always smiling. So, when you say, hey, I'm doing a 100,000 a month, and you saying, let's say premium, for example, and I don't want to like get all in your pockets, but I want to give a concept of what that really means for someone who might be looking at entering this space. If you're doing $100,000 a month, let's just say, for example, the comp is 50% of that premium, and it could be higher, but let's just say it's 50% of the premium. You're talking about $50,000 a month in income coming in. That's powerful. I mean, am I wrong?
No, not at all. After bills and expenses, so you do kind of have to net that out.
Yeah,
But
yeah,
yeah,
you got,
and again,
obviously you got to pay taxes too.
yeah, I pay taxes too. But yeah, it's a great source of living, and the other piece to it too. So you're always rewarded at the end of the year based on performance, and so
And
it's
bonuses.
bonuses. But not only that, I've been fortunate to have some great trips. I've been all over
Trips.
Europe.
Talk about it. Talk about it. Flex on them. Flex on them, Clark. Come on. Where we going? Where we been? Where we going?
Man, I've been to Paris. I've been to Germany. I've been to Switzerland. I think the trip I missed out of was we had a South Africa trip, which I missed out on. Been to Hawaii, and then all the good stuff within the United States. So again, it's just a great environment, great place to make a living. It's work though, but if you can get that, it's definitely worth it. It's
Listen,
definitely worth it.
listen. I'm like, listen. Do your job. I'm like, yo, do your job send you all expense paid to Cancun, to Cabo?
Yep.
You know what I'm saying? All expense paid. What jobs doing that on a regular basis? There's some.
There's some, but it's always going to be some sales.
I mean, it's gonna be sales. It's gonna be sales.
It's always going to be a sales
It's gonna
pitch,
be sales.
or you got to bring in revenue.
It's gonna be sales. But most folks working out there, they're not going to a 5-star resort for a week, all expense paid, all inclusive, plus some excursions. Plus you got a direct deposit that just came in at the beginning of that week. That's gonna make the trip that much more nicer.
But now all that is great. But again, it may not be for everybody too, though, because
That's true.
Because at the end of the day, you got to go get it, right? I'm not coming in. It's not a 9 to 5 job. That is
That's
definitely
right.
not. So you work, if you're not going to get it, it's not going to happen, right? So that's the other piece to it. So it's you working 90 hours a week. For me, it was fun because my work involved, again, I'm at the gym, I'm making contacts, I'm teaching. So that to me wasn't that work. So, but to me, what I love about it is the creative of this industry in particular. It's the creativity of it, right? So it gives you all the flexibility to be creative and work the way you want to work, right? And sell products that you want to sell, and kind of put all that together in a way that you can manage it. So what may work for Rod may not work for me. What products Rod sell may not work for me. But what I can do is I can, hey Rod, how do you talk about this? How do you handle that? So we can kind of collaborate. And
Absolutely.
I think one of the biggest things that I see now when I started, there weren't a lot of us, so we couldn't really collaborate. And and, and a lot of time our clientels are different, right? So what you
Hmm.
may say to that clientele may not work for me, or vice versa. And and right now, I think with the emergence of technology, it makes things a lot different. So
Yeah.
boom, I can call on you. Hey, I would it be look how easy it is for us to communicate now. Back then, you talking about 20, 30 years ago. Before this, if I didn't know you, I didn't know there was another person out there.
Right.
Unless you were close.
Right. 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 You find yourself in silos. And that's another point. In addition to, just and the reason I mentioned income, because my oldest son is 21, right? And he says, listen, Dad, I know you help people, and I know that, you know, that's great, but how you guys make money though, right? So I always like to sprinkle that a little bit in there, just so people know like what the opportunity is, right? Because if you're a young talent, you're entering the workforce, you're gonna be. I mean, people come out of school, they're taking a gig, they might start, 40, 50, 60 grand, wherever they're doing. Nothing wrong with that.
Mm.
But once again, you say, hey, look, if you're the right person, if you don't mind putting in the hours, if you don't mind putting in the time, if you are tenacious, if you have a fire, then you can enter a space where, not to say you're gonna fly off in the first year. Like you say, hey, it took you about a year to kind of get your footing, but if you can be consistent over time, you can really do something that is truly significant, and not only life changing for yourself, but maybe life changing for your family for generations to come. And that's the power, I think, that we had the opportunity to experience. Let me ask you this, since you mentioned the networks and the collaborations, because in addition to kind of the material gains, that's also an important part. The opportunity to leverage other professionals, to learn from people who have developed skills and knowledge that you haven't. How important has that been to you throughout the development of your career?
Man, it's very important. Again, we don't know it all. I didn't know it all. Just the ability to kind of lean. Hey, how does this work? And be okay and be vulnerable. Say, hey, talk to a colleague. Say, I don't know how that works. Educate me on this. How do you do that? That's valuable because we're not gonna know it all. So again, somebody may be doing the exact same thing you do it, but they have a little flair, a little twist that's a little different. That hey, if you do it this way, it's going to work out. It's going to work out a lot better for you. Again, so just the ability to always be open minded and be willing to learn. There's always a new twist. Technology comes along, it makes things different. So yeah, always be willing, and vice versa too. Always be willing to help somebody else out as well.
Absolutely, absolutely. It's a two-way street, and even what I found is getting involved in trade associations and creating those types of connections, whether it be NIA, for kind of the risk management conversations, or if it's kind of a quad A financial advisors who are African American. If it's NAFA, if you're just a financial advisor, the American College. Like I've seen that those types of organizations have been very beneficial to creating those networks, shoring up that knowledge, and finding out what's new and innovative in the marketplace. What's your take on involvement? Because I know we met at an industry event.
Yeah. Mhm.
What's your take on creating those types of connections with associations and groups?
Man, those are invaluable in that as and if I go back as I remember my book of business, right, I always had it in tiers. So you always have a group of clients that they kind of starting off. They might be the folks that are just kind of, they get into the profession making a little bit of money, so you kind of have them as your base. Then the next level, okay, well they might be middle to higher upper managers that's making better money, and so they have a lot more expendable, a lot more investable dollars. And then you have the upper echelons of folks, the multimillionaire folks that need services. So all three groups need different services, and you always have to be able to educate yourself what this group may need. You may have to go out and get somebody else's support. So if they come in, they have an estate. We're talking about estate planning. Well, I'm not an attorney, so I got to partner with a third attorney guy with accounting, and vice versa. So they may have those clients. Well, I have a guy that needs a estate plan. I can do, if I'm an attorney, I can do the legal work, but I need an investment guy to kind of handle the asset. So again, so those collaborations are invaluable. So you always got to be able to kind of branch off and use the help of other folks and bring those expertise in that you don't have.
Absolutely, absolutely. So is that how you started to, kind of make the transition? I mean, you're running the office. You started as an agent when you came down. You were able to grow. You ended up, running an office in Buckhead, I was just down in that area, very nice area.
It's a little different, but still nice.
It's still, say again.
It's a little different now than what it used to be, but it's still
a little different. Okay, it's the area I was in was really nice. But you're running that office. Where'd you start to say, okay, now I've been here on the investment side. I've been here on the insurance side, kind of combining the investment side. Now I'm going to move into the group side, incorporating the insurance and the investment side.
Man, it was kind of by haphazard, by chance, and I guess it might have been in 2014 or so. And man, I'm an avid runner. Always ran. I always kind of stayed in shape. And I was running, and all of a sudden, in a Stone Mountain, which is a great place. I love running Stone Mountain. Then I would start. And Stone Mountain it's a huge park. It's 5 miles around to complete the whole park. It's just there's a whole circle. Then I start, man, my body temperature would go from 0 and feel like I'm just burning up. I'm like, that's not natural. And just being a guy not paying attention and kind of ignore it. And then by chance, I just happened to call my doctor, and she said, well, if I were you, I would come in. I would have you come in, but my EKG machine's not working. But I would definitely go to the emergency room and kind of have an EKG, kind of put it off. Then finally, I would say, just go. Man, that was on Thursday, and on Friday, I was getting operated on bypass surgery. I had all my 5 arteries were clogged, and they said if you had another run, you would not have made it around.
Wow.
So that was boom. That was it. And then from that, took some time out. I was like, hey, let me get right, get healthy. Took some time out. At that time, my kids were young, growing up. So took time out to just be a house dad, coach football, coach youth football. Been doing that now for about 30 years. And kind of took some time out and just reevaluate what I want to do. And then so when I felt I was kind of ready and healthy to kind of come back, and like anything else, building a book, man, that's just tough. Do I really want to kind of go back and build another book? What are some other areas I can kind of do? And so when you're in kind of risk management insurance, it comes down to 3 things, right? Whether it's health, which is health insurance, whether it's wealth, financial services, or debt. So that's the 3 things that people don't like talking about that we have a solution for. So I said, okay, well, I have a good story about why we should be healthy, why we should be mindful about our health, and that just created a new passion for me. Then I started off with the volunteer service side of it, and then kind of got recruited to the group health, and then that's where I've been. So it kind of took an act of God to get me over to the other side.
Right. Legit. Okay, so let me ask you this question, and once again, not holding your feet to the fire, and it may be a different answer for someone else, but for you, having worked in all of those areas, essentially every market segment outside of property and casualty.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. What's been your favorite?
think financial services, because it's where I started, and where it's where I kind of built my support, built my niche. And but what I did, I think each product, each different sector, kind of build me to be a little bit better. And then what it does, it kind of helps me understand the next step. So if I'm talking to a broker, or I'm talking to a small business owner, and they want to offer health insurance, I understand what that small business owner is going to talk to. Okay, well, how much money can I afford to do this? Do I have a 401k? What's the impact of those financial decisions? So it kind of helped me to kind of understand what their philosophy, what they're thinking about, and then at the same time, now I've been on the health side. Okay, well, I understand what's needed for that HR person making that decision, that business owner, what's needed to make that work, and as a employee, I understand how important health insurance is, right? So as no matter who I'm speaking to, I kind of have an idea in the back of my mind what's their question, what the challenges are.
Absolutely, absolutely. Well, definitely. I mean, you're a true industry expert, in whatever capacity you're asked to be, looking at those segments. So I mean, it's commendable, man. I mean, I'm learning some things, just in this conversation, which I appreciate. So 25 years in, maybe a little bit more than 25. What keeps you motivated now? What keeps you going in this business, in this industry?
Man, two things. So, and I think the opportunity, it's the kind of always, again, once you're in sales or you in this side of the business, insurance, it's the ability to kind of be your own boss within a group environment, within a corporate structure. So you have the freedom to kind of go out, make calls, and kind of manage it to your style. So there's not a particular way to do it. You can kind of manage it to your style and have your own kind of flair in doing the process. So I think that's kind of work for me. It's always I always trying to find a way to kind of present things a little differently, other than most, and you really have to understand what you're doing in order to kind of add value. How do I add value? How do I make that person make sure they understand what I'm saying? And one of the things that which is I found pretty invaluable with me in the process is being able to coach youth football for the last 20, 15 years. And it's talking to 16 and 18-year-olds and 7 and 5-year-olds and younger, again, just kind of being able to explain something and making sure that they understand it, or again, being able to present it to them where they're like, okay. So that always kind of keep it new in all the nuances, because there's a lot of nuances, and again, just being able to have the different ideas. So again, you get to pick up new words. I think I first learned the word drip about 2 years ago. Like, Coach, I like your drip. I'm like, what are you talking about? So just the ability always to kind of learn how to communicate, and I think just always, anytime you're able to kind of learn how to communicate well with folks is always a plus.
Absolutely, yeah. I think that that's a big piece. Often it's interesting. You being having the athletic background, being a coach. There's a lot of correlations between the type of work ethic, discipline, mentality that you need in the sports arena, which are very similar to what you need in this field, And at the end of the day, you really do have to enjoy, the work that comes with it, and find some gratification in it. Which, going back to your earlier point, yes, working 80, 90 hours a week, but is it really work though? Like, are we really working? Like, because we really are enjoying like what we're doing. It's like, for you now in the group health side, working for you is, I got to take this client to the Atlanta Hawks game.
That's work. That's work.
That's work.
Or take him to the Falcon game, like, that's work. I got to sit through the Falcon game. Okay, I'm working.
That's work. So when he's saying working 80, 90 hours a week, I mean, let's still put it in perspective. Now, that doesn't mean that you don't have to go back and do some other paperwork and do some admin things too, and go out and talk to carriers and put things together and look over census forms and all that stuff too.
Yep.
But there is some fringe benefits that come along with it also.
That's right.
Absolutely, absolutely.
And
So
man, I always call this building relationship. It just give you an opportunity to build relationships, and then that's work at the end of the day. If someone got to know you in order to do business with you, and the biggest thing that I find out, I always try to be well rounded. I always be able to kind of connect with somebody on some shape or form. Just try different things, and I think that's what seems to kind of work best. Just always finding out something to connect. Whether I like cameras, so I've been collecting old cameras forever. I love watches. Been collecting watches. Just kind of doing different things that if you walking by and notice, hey, I like your watch, and we can kind of have a conversation on that. Or it's always sports. And here in Atlanta, if you can't talk about nothing else, it's always the weather. It's either hot, it's either raining, so it's always going to change. So I always kind of find something that you can kind of connect with somebody at any level.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Let me ask you, so how do you feel like, being in this industry, because you went and you kind of joined, you at least joined something very close in the financial services area, in the investment arena, very closely related. I don't think people realize how closely the investment and the insurance, side are connected. But how do you feel like having a license, working in this industry has helped you grow and evolve as a person?
Man, it's incredible to get that license. You pretty much holding yourself, and the industry is kind of holding yourself accountable. And so it's something that you have to go get, right? It's not handed to you. You have to kind of put in the time. You have to study. You have to go take the test. You got to pass the test. And then once you have it, then the continuing education that you're responsible for to make sure that you're up on your craft. Again, you being held to account. And so I think having that license kind of say, hey, I'm here. This is a profession, and then that continuing education class credit that you got to get every kind of remind you of all that. Okay, this is real. This is real. I'm in a profession. This is something that I have to be taken serious, and other folks are taking serious, and I will be held to account.
Absolutely, absolutely. So at this stage in your journey, what's the dream now? Like, what's the goal now? What's you've done it all, effectively. So what's the bigger picture? What's the end goal for Clark Cesar?
And man, at the end of the day, I think if you're in the industry, you always are an entrepreneur at heart. So it's basically, again, so how do I provide service to somebody else? How do I expand my reach? So it's always that. How do I present this product in a different light? Again, with the nuances of technology, things have come a long way with COVID. A lot of time we don't even go out, which what I enjoy, go out seeing folks face to face. A lot of time it might be a Zoom call. So how do we adapt to that? How do we adapt to those changes as technology changes, as product and services changes? How do we kind of accept the nuances and be able to grow with them and flourish still?
Absolutely. Speaking of technology, I know there's a digital vault, like technology that kind of aligns with some of the life insurance that you actually shared with me. So how does that work? Just for folks who are listening.
Sure. Thank you for asking. And I think I'll kind of go back a little bit. I think as a group of folks, we're kind of good with generation before me. We're kind of okay. Well, we know financial services is important. Then me coming in, okay, now we're starting to kind of gain some financial freedom. We're trying to gain some wealth. So the next piece is, now I have the wealth. How do I pass it on to the next generation? So I think we're kind of here. So I think the next phase is, how do I pass that wealth on to the next generation without it having to go to probate, without having losing all of it? And that's what we're working on. I have a good friend of mine, childhood friend of mine. Matter of fact, his mother and my mother knew each other since they were teenagers, and so he came up during COVID. He's a technologist by trade, so he created an app called Enduring Wishes, and what it does is the app itself is a digital vault where if you have what you can take your assets, you can take your financial services and put it in the vault. And so what that does is, again, when someone dies, did they have insurance? Where is it located? Where everything is? So we're all kind of having to kind of guess what things are. So we kind of store it in the vault. But what we do is we have a whole legacy tied to it. And what he believes is that people's lives are made up of a series of moments, right? You get married, you graduate, you have babies. So it's through those moments and memories that he wants you to capture. And with that is, okay, as I'm capturing those moments. Well, if I'm married, I need to protect my wife. I have a home, I need to protect her. So I need those policies to kind of go along with that. And then once I start building those policies and having those assets, where do I store it? Well, here's where I store it. I store it inside the vault. But to that as well, right? So it also kind of minimize any bickering that goes on amongst families. Like, oh, dad wanted me to have that, mom wanted. No, they didn't. So if you write it down, boom, it's here. Everyone has access to it and view it. And so you can have your wills, your legacies, and everything else in it. One other piece of it, which is pretty exciting too. Not only that, but you're able to have tell you. I say tell your own story in your own words. Kind of create your own legacy. There are stories that you may want to share or have your kids know about you for years down the road. So it gives you the opportunity to kind of tell your story in your own words and your pictures, and then store it. Or maybe a family recipe or family thing that goes on that you want to have access to. So if it's only with you, Rod, once you're gone, no one has it. But you can take that legacy, you can take that recipe, you can take that family history, plop it, boom. So now, so it's a legacy that you kind of leave behind, and then everyone can have access to it and view it.
That's right. It's kind of like if we don't tell our stories, who will, right?
Exactly.
And even if someone does tell it, are they going to tell it the way that we want it told?
Exactly. So you get to tell your own story in your own words. And what's kind of and I kind of share this. My wife keep a cassette of her mom had passed away, and back when we had cassette, she had left her a voicemail. So she always keep that cassette to kind of as a reminder of her mom's voice. So here's an opportunity again. You can do that digitally. You can have. Well, I have pictures. What do we do with them? You can kind of store them. And then have that be our own legacy. Again, we can tell our own story in our own words the way we want to tell it and share with folks.
Absolutely, man. Absolutely. No, wonderful, man. It's exciting to learn about you, see what you've done, hear where you've been, where you are now, and what you're accomplishing in the future. Because I mean, you've been involved in helping people to build it, keep it, protect it, and now sustain it. So
exactly. How do you pass it on
all sides? Someone who is looking at getting to this industry, maybe they've had a conversation with someone, or maybe this is their first time even hearing about it, or maybe they're new. What kind of advice or guidance would you give to them as they're navigating their journey, throughout this career?
Good question. So once you start understand that this journey or this industry, it lends itself to being an entrepreneur. So that means everything is within you, right? So it's not. So you have, first of all, kind of understand that's the responsibility. You are the revenue producer. You're going to generate revenue. So with that, get with someone that's in the business, so that you can get mentorship and kind of guidance. And again, it may be a life insurance guy, maybe a PNC, maybe a somebody else, but again, someone who kind of have done it, and be willing to listen. A lot of time, there's no reason to reinvent the wheel. Be willing to listen, and you may have some new ideas. Again, try those, and always kind of run that by. Again, this is a great industry to be in, and I kind of went back to my marketing days. It gives you an opportunity to kind of market yourself and share yourself the way you want to do it, right? So there's no one else going to say, hey, this is how you have to do it. So you have some originality. You can get some originality to it, and then be an individual to it. Because at the end of the day, everything with the emergence of the internet, it's starting to be a little bit. It's almost like a commodity, right? There's a lot of times there's not a lot of difference in product and services from one company to another. what makes a difference is the person selling it, right?
Right. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. No. Very, very important and strong point there. So if someone, let's say, speaking of mentorship, speaking of guidance, obviously you're someone great, that a young person in the industry can call upon and glean some insight from. What's the best way for someone to get in contact with you if they're listening to this conversation? Is it LinkedIn? Is it Facebook? Is it website? What's the best way for them to reach out?
LinkedIn's always best. Best for me. I can always kind of go back in and shoot me an email on there. I'll always apply. I'll reply.
So send that connection request on LinkedIn.
Yep.
We'll make sure that we have it noted for you for Clark Cesar. Hey, look, man, I appreciate you taking this time. I'm thankful, to know you and to be able to, learn from you as well. I think that's always important. When you meet people, especially who've been around in this business doing different things, gaining those insights and looking for that knowledge, that you can take and apply, just like you mentioned. And then that person can then take it and apply it to someone else. So I'm just thankful for everything that you've done, everything you contributed, all the knowledge that you share, everything that you're building. And those who are listening, listen, he gave you a whole buffet of actually different tracks that you could take. He talked about investment, talked about life insurance. We talked about group benefits. So there's a lot of different roads for you to take. And maybe you heard something in this conversation that made you think to yourself, maybe you should get a license. Until the next time, peace.